Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Pair Genius podcast. It's always funny when we hit record and we turn into broadcast mode, but welcome. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you. You know what's funny is that I shouldn't even, and oh, damn. I told myself I wasn't going to say, you know what's funny?
What? We have these like catchphrases that.
And that's how I started the damn podcast. But I was going to say was that it's weird not hearing you say, welcome to the Firmamental podcast.
That's because it's not the Firmamental.
I know, but I hear you say it all the time. So it was just weird to hear you say the Pair Genius podcast.
Well, I just wanted to take a quick moment and say thank you to everybody that's sent us messages and have listened and are. We actually have a few reviews on Spotify, so that's exciting. So if you could share it with your network and rate, review, and give it a like, and check us out on YouTube as well, and subscribe there, and please share. I think it's the only way we can go viral. It's the only way. We have to rely on our friends to do a little bit of the heavy lifting for us. Well,
and here's hoping that they have a reason to want us to go viral, that we're actually providing not just comedy and entertainment, but a sneak peek into our relationship, but also our struggles and our realizations and just kind of our take on life so far.
Yeah, because I was thinking yesterday about why are we doing this? I was asking myself while I'm putting on my shoes, I'm like, why are we doing this? I like to entertain. I like to laugh. I like to learn new things, even if it's coming from me. As we talk things out, I learn a lot just from us actually setting aside a little bit of time, asking some questions, and getting out of that day-to-day mode, which all of us are in most of the day. But it's kind of nice to set aside this time and ask those questions and meditate on them.
I think without this podcast for me so far, I wouldn't have come to the realization that I'm stuck. I wouldn't have been able to kind of help myself become unstuck. And there wouldn't have been all of these miraculous insights that would have come in for me, because I would have just had this interior dialogue with myself. And this way I get to flush it out.
There is something amazing about actually vocalizing your thoughts. And you were telling me about manifestation. You're saying something about writing it and then saying it in your mind, saying it out loud.
Yeah, you know what? I used to follow Mel Robbins all the time, like her 5-second rule and count yourself out of bed type thing in the morning. And there was a reason that she was in that chapter, and then she kind of just fell off the planet for me. And the other day, oddly enough, she came up on my Instagram feed, and I'm almost never on social, but I was there and she showed up, and I didn't have the sound on. I never have the sound on. I never want to be inundated by sound on my phone. So I just kind of was reading the words as they were popping up. And I think, who was she talking to? Maybe it was Gabo Mate, but I can't remember. And he had said, or the person had said, you need to write your manifestation down. You need to say it in your head, and then you need to say it out loud, because that programs your subconscious.
Mm-hmm. I think there's something very powerful about expressing yourself vocally, even if it's just into the ether. There is something very powerful about that.
Yeah, that's my personal challenge, is being able to say it out loud. Mm-hmm. When I would go to church as a child, I never gave voice to anything I was saying. I would just mouth the prayers, and everything in Catholic church is very automatic, repetitive. It's, and it had no meaning to me. And if it doesn't have meaning, I have a very hard time saying it out loud.
Mm-hmm. And that sets us up for what this episode is about. And we touched on it a little bit, and I don't think I was quite ready, because you asked me about what my personal power was. And I feel like this part 2 is going to be that exploration and that discovery. And I think that you hold a lot of keys for me. So as we go through this, it'll be a fun exercise for me.
And it's not fair for me just to put you on the spot and ask, what is your personal power? Because I think a lot, and the few people that know their personal power right from the get-go, super lucky. Mm-hmm. Super lucky. And then for them, it's just a matter of evolving the personal power, I think, throughout their experiences. Whereas for the most of us, I think that our life experiences actually trigger and bring us back into alignment with that personal power without us even knowing it. And then we just have to sit and think, oh my God, like there's been these key moments and those have been bursts of my personal power, and I didn't know it.
Yeah, I feel like so many times in my life I've been challenged, and this is probably another episode, but it's very interesting the the role playing game that is life, and you seem to keep having the same challenges over and over again. And I feel like one of my challenges in life is when I start to vibe very, very high, the people that are vibing low around me tend to bring me down. And I am starting to recognize that it's not me, it's them. They want somebody to vibe at the same level as them.
And
And to me, that's a big awakening about who I surround myself with.
well, I think the other key thing in there that you're missing is that it kind of is you because that's your fault for not putting boundaries up.
Well, and at the same time, who I am wants to be at that high level and be an inspiration to the people around me and help bring them up, not them bring me down.
Yeah, but
And
you think that you would have control over your energy going up or down, not them.
right. And that's where I was thinking about, oh, wow, this is something I need to recognize that they're just trying to assimilate their surroundings with the same vibration. And here I am, this oddball that's buzzing really high. And they just want me to be the same. And here I am, I want them to be the same, but I fall for the trap and I kind of get discouraged.
So we can actually pull this into you and me. There are times where you're vibing very high, and then I come in and I'm vibing very low. Right? So you kind of, I mean, how quickly do I pull you down?
You're pretty good at it. You can, depending, like if you're not well, if you're feeling unwell,
Okay.
that'll bring me down very quickly.
You don't have to make excuses for me. You just have to say, yeah, you bring me down. It's okay to say that.
Oh, and the most catastrophic thing in our house is if both of us are low. Then it's a very, very low vibe in the home, and things are very hopeless at that time.
Yeah, just remember everything you're saying now, because I think that as we get into this conversation of personal power and I start to share a little bit about what's come through for me, this will all make even more sense.
Oh, good. Okay. See, there's a reason for everything, right?
Yep.
Good. So, I guess one of the things I wanted to start with is I was confused with the last episode, and it's like, what exactly is a personal power?
Oh, do you have the answer for that?
Well, I remember the answer from our reels and things like that is that
I don't think that we explained it right.
right. So let's explain it correctly right off the hop with this one. It's like, what is a personal power to a person?
Okay, well, what is personal power to me? How about that? Because I don't know what it is to other people, and maybe it only makes sense for me.
Okay.
But your personal power is reclaiming your space in creation. So this, whatever we're living now, whether it's a globe, a plane, a simulation, whatever it is, however you want to label it, it is a creation. We're living creation.
Okay.
We're little bursts of creation. And realigning yourself with your personal power is reclaiming that space. And that way you're acknowledging that you are supposed to be here, that you bring your own unique vibration, your own unique light, your own unique colors to this experience.
And then you get to decide how you want to interact with the world.
No.
Okay. How am I missing it?
Really, nothing that I said made sense to you?
Yeah.
I was like blowing myself away with it, and then you're just like, huh?
What do you mean? I was really?
Wow, that didn't land at all. Okay, you tell me what personal power is.
I think that your personal power is, from what I understand, what you said. And
No, don't do that. What do you think personal power is? Who cares what I said?
Personal power is you figuring out what your gifts are and then sharing them with the world. That to me is personal power.
Okay.
I feel like we come here with this wiped mind and we play with things. We interact with things differently and we try and figure out where our gifts are. And then it's a matter of embracing those gifts, nurturing them, sharpening them, getting better at them, and then going out in the world and sharing those gifts with people, and hopefully that makes the world a better place.
So I think that some of where I got it wrong last week is that I think that your personal power is meant to expand your own experience. It's to help you attain more enlightenment. And I feel like so much of the work that you're doing for yourself shifts the quantum field enough that it, through osmosis, almost helps everybody else around you. Not that you're like, you don't have to actively seek out to share your gift, but that just by working on yourself, you're automatically already raising everybody else around you. Now, I think some people have the gift that they are meant to actively go out, like doctors and psychologists. Like there are certain things, there are certain jobs, certain purposes that are outward facing. But I don't have one of those. And so that's maybe part of the confusion for me.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems is when we're kids, everything is about getting an education, getting a job, and making money. It's not about finding what your genius zone is. It's like, oh, you're playing with cars, you're playing with fire trucks. Maybe you should be a fireman. And then your parents kind of plant that idea, oh, you want to be a fireman.
So that's one of the things. It's funny because there it is again. It's funny because it's one of those things that when you're younger, everybody always asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was never able to answer that question, not once. I had no idea. Even now, going back when I like do an inner child meditation, and I'm like, what did we want to do? Meh. It's not there for me. That answer is not there.
I remember in high school wanting to be a guidance counselor in grade 11, and I started to take psychology classes, and I really enjoyed it. I really thought that it was fantastic, and I really wanted to help it was funny. I wanted to help people like me, except I was visioning myself in the future, helping people like me be able to pick their careers or find their gifts and then share them with the world. That really excited me. And then somewhere along the way, I don't know what happened, but I kind of sold out. And for some reason, I didn't think that would make money. And I ended up turning more towards engineering, and not that I didn't like it, I enjoyed it, but I feel like it was on my heart that I wanted to help people. And the funniest thing is when I became an electrician, my favorite part of the job was mentoring the younger guys, and then even just talking about life. And as we're working, that I still somehow found a way to bring one of my what I feel is my real passion, even when I was young. And now I feel like I'm even more suited to it now that I have even more wisdom.
Okay, tell me, unpack that more for me. Tell me more about your passion.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to help people because of me. Like when I was a kid, I felt like I had no direction.
No guidance?
No guidance. And not that it was anybody's fault. It was probably more me not vocalizing that I needed help from somebody. And I think I wanted to make it so perfectly safe that anybody, even the most recluse person like me, would feel comfortable to go into that space and ask for help.
It's crazy that listening to you say that out loud now, I can start to, it's like a constellation that's being lit up. Like bing, bing, bing. Like it's like, oh, there was this time, and then there was that time, and this time. And it's like, oh my God, it was there the whole time. What are you confused about? Why do you have to go and find your personal power when you've actually had it the whole time?
Because I think that hindsight is 2020, and in that moment we have self-doubt. We, that ego thing gets in the way, or who the hell am I to do these things?
How easy is it to stray from your personal power when it's been there the whole time? It's the most uncomplicated part of who you are, and yet somehow you veer away from it. How do you actually keep yourself anchored to your personal power?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to to ask because, like I said, I sold out, and now I'm just trying to like weave my way back
I don't think
some
that's
way.
fair. Selling out is harsh. I think that you were faced with a decision to either spend more time and money going to school to be a psychologist or a counselor, or you get a job right away so that you can support you and me so that we can start to build a life together. You were faced with two very difficult decisions, and you had to kind of forego what your heart actually wanted because you thought that it would be better and more stable and safer to go that way.
I definitely wanted to get through school as quickly as possible, even though I didn't. But the goal was to get through as quickly as possible so that we could have money and be people.
So you see that
Yeah.
so wouldn't you say that this is a recurring loop for you, that your soul, your heart wants this, and yet you're going to choose that because you think that it's the quicker, safer way to go for immediate solution?
Right. It comes down to sacrifice. I would sacrifice the things that are best for me for some strange reason.
But that will never be helpful to you or anybody else. And if your life's mission, if your life's purpose is to help other people who were not able to voice themselves and ask for the guidance, like I think that until you break that loop and really learn that lesson, it won't be of service to anybody. Especially yourself. You have to start with yourself first. Once you break that loop and create that shift within you, that shift in the quantum field happens too.
So another thing that I was thinking about too is when we talk about these things, I feel like I'm good at a lot of different things.
You are.
And just because I like building and making things doesn't mean that I want to do that every single day for a paycheck or whatever. I don't want to turn the things that I love into the thing that I have to get up every morning at 5 and go and grind. And I want that, do a project and then recharge, do a project and we were just talking about that with you too. It's during the last 3 or 4 years, you're so busy. You're giving everything for something that you were really good at and you really enjoyed, and it drained you. It drained you so much. And the fact that it had to be a constant thing and making money, and I think it's one of the tragedies of this realm that we're in.
And yet we have the ability to stop that at any point and choose something else, right? We're never actually that screwed or pigeonholed that we can't get ourselves out and choose something else. Yes, it's probably the more difficult choice and it won't be smooth sailing at any point, but the human experience is not about that anyway. If it was, we'd be living in the Garden of Eden. But there's sin, and all of a sudden now we're living in this world of choices. It's a world of choices, right? And with choices comes this endless possibility, and yet we keep choosing things that are not in for a higher purpose.
Right. Well, what I was getting at too is that I would like to do lots of different things. I get bored if I'm always doing the same thing over and over again.
If you were now to switch things up and choose more of a path of counseling, of guidance, what if you could be that person? It would never really be the same thing every time because it would be a new experience with somebody else every time. And it's not just you helping somebody else, but that you're finding something for you, for your own growth through that person.
You know what's sad is the first thing that came to my mind or to my heart was, what if I screw the person up, and what if it's like super draining and I hate it? Those are the first two things that came to my mind, and I'm just talking about how much I like it.
But you don't know because you haven't actually thrown yourself into it. So now your mind, your ego is getting in the way, right?
Oh man, I'm just see, like even in real time, the frustration is real. Where I'm just being honest, like that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Okay, so but you're aware. Are you not aware that you just said that and you caught yourself in it?
Yeah.
So you shed light on it. So recognize it and then just let it go.
But isn't that so insane? I just talked about how I love that. Those are my favorite parts. And then when you put this like perfect road in front of me. It's like, oh, you should go do this. Oh, I don't know. Like, oh, I'll screw people up, or who the hell am I to do those things? Like, that's the first reaction. Like, ah,
Yeah, but those are there to kind of get you stirred up. And I think that once you recognize that, oh, that's just resistance, but resistance is good, lean in, that will just kind of open the door for you taking one step, one step, one step. And because you're a Virgo and you like your steps and processes, you'll figure it out.
and I don't think I'm unique. I think that if people commented on this video and said like, this happens to me too, or I know that I can't be the only one. Like,
Of course not.
I would say most people err on the side of practicality instead of following their dreams. And that hurts our inner children, like our inner child that gets hurt, like because we know deep down we would be doing something different. It's all these responsibilities that we have that we don't take that chance or we don't take that shot, and then we just live our life, and then it's over.
So your high school self wanted to be the guidance counselor. If you go back to your little boy self, what did you want to be?
Oh wow. I wanted to be lots of different things when I was a kid. I thought being a fireman would have been cool like when I was like 5 years old, and I thought about being a policeman at one point, and but you can kind of see I like the hero. I like to be the hero. Even when I was an electrician and I would come home and I'd be all excited like, "Oh, I saved this part of the city from a blackout," or "Oh crap, I caused the blackout, but I got it back on. I'll be on the news. Just watch this." But I I just really like that, being a savior.
Oof. Being a savior, wow. I think that you really enjoy being called into a situation where it's dire and you know that you are going to function and react appropriately so that people are not going to be lost, left behind, die.
Right.
You are very good in a intense situation, very grounded.
Right. I think we were talking about that on one of our last episodes, that's one of my superpowers is in an emergency, I'm the guy that you want there because time slows down for me. I don't panic and I delegate perfectly.
So wouldn't you say it's the same thing if somebody was coming to you in a counseling session? For them, that is a state of emergency. For somebody to admit that they need help is indicative that they're going through some kind of a crisis. And you show up, and instead of matching that energy, you bring in this solid, safe space of openness where they get to explore and be supported. It's the same thing. It's same. I don't see any difference between policeman, fireman, counselor, right? It's the same energy that you walk in. It's the same gift that you're bringing forward.
So what hoops do I have to jump through to start doing that?
I am probably not the person to tell you that because processes and steps don't make sense to me. And I'm just going to catapult you right to the end.
Right. When we have all these rules to the board game that we're in, it's like, oh, you got to get this piece of paper and you got to go do that. And then you got to do this because who the hell are you to do these things?
And how often do I follow the rules?
But that's the thing. It's funny. We all are so programmed to give our power away to these other institutions.
I don't give my power away to anybody. And you do that when you let other people bring you down.
Right.
Stop giving your power away.
That's why we're shining light on these things right now.
Right? It's your sacred gift. It's yours. It's your unique vibration. Like it should be protected. It's holy ground. Whenever you're in a room, nobody should be able to change that for you.
You know what's funny is these things behind me on the wall, like these really expensive pieces of paper. One of them, I always would joke with the kids that I probably used about 2% of my knowledge, maybe 5% of my knowledge from that one piece of paper in my job. Maybe 5%. So 95% was a complete waste of time that could have been thrown in the garbage and I could have just learned it on the fly on the job. It's just basically wasting 3 years of my life. The other one, I enjoyed it. That's my night school one at University of Manitoba. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. And the most memorable thing about that was the people and the discussions, not the actual courses, but the people and the discussions that we had pertaining to working in a company, that was the most valuable thing. Not like I don't remember anything about the classes. I remember the people. And it's funny how these institutions, they want you to spend all this time and money there, and you really don't get anything other than a really expensive piece of paper.
Right.
And then you basically fall back on your natural gifts, your natural talents. So it's interesting when people are hiring you for a job, how do they, unearth some signs of, where you would fit and how well you would be, because it can't just be based on that I'm a man or, my beliefs or my religion, or it really should be what are your values and what do you bring to the table? What are your real skills, your natural skills?
Sounds like you need to rewrite the hiring process.
Oh, that'd be cool. So, man, this is one of my favorite episodes so far.
Yes.
It's crazy. We're only like halfway through.
Speaking of expensive pieces of paper, I also have one of those. How much did I spend on mine?
Oh, 25,000. I know.
I have a $25,000 piece of paper that I actually refuse to hang up on the wall because I hate labels. I don't even know. Okay, so when I was a kid and I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, when you're in a world where it demands that you end up just doing whatever to satisfy the people around you. So I was a musician. I have a bachelor's degree of music. I play the flute, right? That was kind of where I got pushed, and playing the flute, just yesterday on my walk, I was thinking, what was it about the flute? Like, I technically was not where everybody else was. I mean, I was able to meet the standard of the technique of playing the flute. Where I blew everybody else away was in the creativity that I brought through the sound. I was able to produce a sound that had people stop because it struck something in them that they couldn't even explain. So in all the competitions that I did and all the times that I won, it wasn't because my technique was ever better. And the adjudicators would note that my technique was maybe lacking here, or it could have been tighter or cleaner there. The reason I won was because I was able to bring, they call it musicality, and I think that's just bringing spirit through. Because when you bring spirit through, it moves the people on the other side of it.
You weren't just going through the motions.
No, and a lot of people were. And the other thing was that I showed up dressed to the nines. Like, I never went to a performance where I didn't look superior. That was just part of it. It was a show of respect for myself, for the event, and for the people listening. When I got up on stage, people would be like, oh, what's going on, right? Because intentionally, that's what I want. I want you to say something is happening. Something is about to happen. There's a presence. And then I would put the instrument to my mouth, and what came through was otherworldly. And I'm not being, I'm not trying to gloat or brag or whatever. This is just what happened. And so when you go to university with that kind of a gift, and you don't have the technique to back it up, they tear you down. So the principal flute player for the Winnipeg Symphony was the lead professor for flute at the University of Manitoba. And he told me I didn't have it. It was not going to be for me. And so I spent it took me 5 years to finish a 4-year program because I struggled. What do you do when somebody tells you that it will never amount to anything?
Yeah, that's interesting that there's this gatekeeper that has this power over you, or this pretend power over you, and yet you're that young and you allow them to squash you. So that's heartbreaking. And he was probably not wrong, because when you are the principal flute player for an orchestra, it's all solo. Like when you go to a symphony, you'll notice that the flute is not just a supporting instrument like all the violins are. It's a featured instrument. When you hear the flute, it's like, oh, what is happening? And there's all this stuff happening. And It would have been me swimming upstream and a lot of extra work to learn all of those parts. And I couldn't see that then. I was just swept away by the devastation of him telling me I didn't have it.
But I remember playing in the youth orchestras and enjoying it so much, all of these soloistic parts. And I really loved feeling special. And there was a girl kind of just coming up under me. Her name was Sarah Hahn. And now she is the principal flutist of the Calgary Symphony, which is unbelievable. And I remember listening to her play and I'm like, watching her technique, I'm like, this kid's got it. Like, this is what the university is trying to put out so that they can go and give back. And I know that there is, well, I'm getting off base. But in any case, I have this very expensive piece of paper, and I don't use it at all. But I think it'll make sense when I start to explain my personal power. And because just like for you, there's this constellation that kind of comes alive where all the stars all of a sudden connect, and now it's formed something that makes sense.
Do you think that, tying this back in with the music, do you think that being exposed to that much amazing music, those amazing sounds, helped tune you better to spirituality or the things that we can't explain?
I'm going to say no, because the prevalent energy of that experience was chaos and fear and feeling lost and separated. And so I don't even think that the little exposure, it's funny because you go to school for music and there's not actually that much music there. It's not like I was sitting in a symphony going to school, right? It was books. I'm learning music theory. I'm learning music history. I'm doing composition. It's writing. It's books. And you know me, that's not how I learn.
It seems like a waste of time, especially if you want to play music.
I guess you'd have to ask either a music teacher or a member of the symphony if it was a waste of time for them. For me, it was only because I was lost to begin with.
So let's say that, I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but let's say you graduate university, which you did, and then you go and you play in the symphony. What exactly from those books are you taking into your job?
If it would have been me,
Yeah,
nothing.
nothing at all. I mean, maybe if you were to become a professor at the university and start teaching these courses, that's the only useful part of it.
So the university is really just putting out people to come back into the institution, to put out more people to come back into like they're just keeping their own engine moving.
Yeah, they're feeding their own beast. That's
This is very off topic, and we can have a conversation on this for sure.
So bizarre. Well, yeah, we're talking about how we give our personal powers away to these institutions, these make-believe institutions that pretend to hold this power over us, that we spend all this time and money and try to achieve these things so that we can go out into the world with these licenses and permits. They give us permission to do the things that we want to do.
True.
All right. Hit me with the next part.
I think that if you're confused about your personal power, there are questions that you can ask, meditations that you can do, so that you can kind of realign yourself. And so that's what I spent the past few days trying to do. And wouldn't you know, 10 minutes before we popped on this podcast, I'm sitting in the closet crying because it's come to me. Like I've had this insane thing and then I had to like fix up my face and stuff.
I was thinking it's like, it's monumental for us, even in our 40s. But could you imagine giving this information to a teenager who's about to embark on things and really getting in touch with it? To me, that's a huge gift.
Yeah. I don't know, I can't say because it's so unique and so personal, but how you come into your personal power, how you recognize it, how you anchor yourself to it in a way that it keeps you from abandoning it for any other reason, right? But for some of us, like I said, life experience is necessary to grow the gift.
Yeah.
So I wrote down a couple of questions as I was meditating last night so that we could kind of talk about it.
Oh, look at you with your sexy glasses.
Old people reading glasses. Otherwise I can't see.
It's okay. I like it.
Okay, so let's talk about struggles, because often in the middle of a struggle, your personal power gets pushed on and you're forced to kind of use it to get yourself out of the struggle. So I'm asking you, what struggles have you gone through that have cracked open aspects of your purpose? You've had struggles, so go back and think about them.
Oh, wow. I guess one of the big struggles was the realization that after about 4 or 5 years sitting in a cubicle doing the same thing, and then realizing that I was climbing this corporate ladder of of a build, let's say a building. My ladder was on a building, and I'm like, oh my God, my ladder is on the wrong building. I'm climbing the totally wrong thing, and it was, I don't know, it was really hard. It was really hard to be at a certain level, to have pigeonholed myself and be brave enough to say, no, I'm not going to continue this way because I only got this one shot at my life. I need to do something different.
So in that moment of struggle, you said you had the bravery. Now, wouldn't any superhero ever have a hefty dose of bravery? You know, so right there, because we've already talked about your personal power and we can define it as being a superhero, you were already calling upon your power to help you out of that situation.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, it's so funny trying to be this wallflower and fit in. And I just feel like everything that's been happening in my life is like forcing me the opposite direction that everyone else is going in. And that takes a ton of bravery when really like when they send us to school, it is to conform. They are teaching us conformity at either, and it's all basically subconscious, but if everybody raises their hands and you're the only one not raising your hand, you'll just kind of eventually start raising your hand. And you don't realize that. But over the last 7 years, I've been consistently the guy not raising his hand, just sitting there and being okay with not knowing the answer, and sticking out and sticking out like a sore thumb. And that's, to me, that's empowering. It's not just following the herd.
So give me another example of a time in your life that you were really struggling.
I would say in school, in one of my, maybe 3/4 of the way through college, and I really hated it. Like, I really hated school. I didn't want to go anymore. And I remember this one night where I was just praying, like, give me a sign that I should finish, or I should just give up on this and do something different. And I can't remember what the sign was, but I remember getting a confirmation that I should finish because I only had like 15-20% basically to go. And then I'd have that piece of paper right there, that one right there. I'd have that piece of paper on the wall, and then I could start working at a company, and you and I could be able to afford clothing and real food, and not just eat pizza pops and have one pair of pants.
So in that moment where you were struggling so hard, you didn't, the first thing you thought to do was to ask for a sign. So you prayed, you meditated, but you asked for help.
Yeah.
That's one of your superpowers, is being able to ask for help. So guess what? When somebody comes to you asking for help, that triggers your superpower, that triggers you creating this space of safety. Your superpower was there the whole time.
One of the things that drives me crazy, though, is I get myself into a corner and it feels like it's the most dire situation. And that's when I ask for help. I wish that I would be smart enough and wise enough. And I feel like I am that now, where it's like the last 5 or 6 months, I know that there's a shift coming, and I've been asking for help.
But you needed to experience that, because that's where the other person is going to be, and you get to meet them exactly where they are because you've been there. Wisdom, age, life experience has taught you you don't yourself have to be that critical. It doesn't have to be that much of a crisis before you ask for help, but you started there, so you're able to meet that person there.
Yeah, and it's funny because as perfect as my life seemed, like I had a great career, great job, a great family, you can tell when a chapter is ending. and that you should be able to be comfortable to let it go with, with realizing that I was just done. I was done sitting in that cubicle. You weren't healthy, you weren't happy, and a major change needed to happen.
I think that you are missing every time I'm pointing something out to you because you come back at me with a deflect.
Okay.
You're brave. You're probably one of the bravest people I've ever met. And instead of owning it, you try and come up with a reason why it had to even happen, or that everybody else has bravery too.
I'll own it.
If you could just own the fact that you're brave, if you could own the fact that you have learned how to ask for help more quickly, right? It required the experience of you waiting to ask for help, but not anymore. Doesn't that put you in a position to be able to help other people? Don't you know what your superpowers are so that you can position yourself to be of service in a very meaningful way that will light up your little firefighter heart?
Yeah. It's funny because now it's like, okay, now I have to plan my route of how I'm going to do it.
And that's fine. You're a researcher. You'll figure it out for yourself.
Hmm.
You can drop the time constraints of this human concept of time, because it doesn't matter. You're about to be faced with a big opportunity to break the loop.
The hardest thing is the thing that I already did. I've already done the hardest thing.
You're about to be faced with an opportunity to break this loop.
Okay.
We're in a position where we're waiting for you to hear from a job that has nothing to do with everything that you just talked about. It has nothing to do with you being a mentor, a guide, creating safe space for somebody to be enlightened. So you are going to have to make the choice of, do I take this job so that I can get us out of this debt hole that we have gotten ourselves into, or do I follow my heart's desire? And money might come through that just because I'm doing the thing that I'm meant to be doing and I'm 100% aligned. Money is energy. Is money going to go to the energy of desperation, or is it going to go to the energy of purpose?
Mm-hmm. That's
I'm
funny.
just saying there's a loop coming.
The thing that I was thinking about is that I would do the thing for free.
And that's exactly it. And how many times have I sat here doing my work thinking money is getting in the way, I can't do this properly, because I would do it for free anyway. And it's crazy that we live in this world where you have to do it to make money, because that's our world. It's 3D stuff.
Yeah. I love working with you. I would do that for free too. I love being with you. I love doing this, or we do this for free.
So I think that some of that is tied into our combined powers. But in any case, are you ready for the next question? Because I have another one.
Sure.
I think that we already talked about that. What qualities flow effortlessly from you? What compliments do you get the most often?
Oh, wow. I don't know.
Let's do the compliments first.
I'm always surprised when somebody compliments me, like, oh, this is like something I said, they wrote it down, or something I said was brilliant, or that always surprises me, because I feel like I think and talk so simplistically, and I get compliments that, oh, you're a genius or whatever, and it's like I don't let that get to my head, because I know that all I'm doing is just working the little hamster wheel, and then I spit it out as simple as I can. And in that simplicity, hopefully there is some genius to it.
So the message, let me decode that for you.
Oh, okay, good. Yes. Because I don't like this.
I think the message is that it comes out simplistically so that it lands and resonates, and people can take it in easily. Like, it's simple for a reason. However, the intention behind it, the message, is not simplistic in any way. And what you've done is you've connected yourself to spirit. You've entered the quantum field, and you were able to pull it down. And when you're talking about the hamster wheel, it's just coming in, it's getting filtered and restructured so that it can come out in a simplistic way to land in understanding.
Sure, I'll buy that.
Do you
Yeah.
buy it or are you just shrugging me off?
No, no, no.
Are
I
you
totally
hearing
get.
me?
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
That you're able to connect, to bring it down
Hmm.
and deliver it. Like your communication is really good.
Oh, thanks. I have a tell though. When I'm in the flow, I get like goosebumps on my arm.
That's a tell only for you.
That's a tell only for me, but I can tell, and it's like, oh wow, okay, I'm onto something. I got to keep going with this. That makes me happy.
You always say, I wish I could be more like you and connect but you already do that. People are complimenting you for it, which means it comes naturally to you. And yet somehow you don't see it.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's not funny.
It's funny that when I was surrounded by these electricians, um, I remember being amazed. I was amazed at all the different things that we were doing and fixing, but I was surrounded with people that they, I don't know if they realized how amazing we were. Like I kept like saying like, man, like look at what we're doing. Like this is incredible. And I don't know, it just didn't land. Everybody was just like, "Oh, it's just a job, or just I'm just fixing this." I'm like, "Dude, nobody else can fix this. Like we're like the 0.1%, 0.01% on Earth that can actually fix something like this. Isn't that incredible?" Like I was talking about that with Vince on the podcast with his jujitsu and how good he is and how he's competing. I'm like, you realize there's 0.001% of people that can do the things that you're doing at your age as well as you're doing them. Like we tend to shrug off our amazing superpowers.
Which is why the compliments are important. And it's important to read the compliments or hear the compliments and let them sink in and then own what's being brought to light.
So to tie that back in is there's a reason why I deflect, and it's because of this programming I've had of with these hanging around these other guys for 10 years that it's no big deal. We're just like amazing.
I'm calling you on the deflection though,
Okay.
just so you know. Going forward.
Nice.
So the other side of that question was what qualities flow effortlessly from you?
Well, qualities. I'm a problem solver. I'm very creative. Especially if it's not my problems. If it's not my problems, I'm way quicker at, oh, bang, 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 boom. I've created an entire roadmap for you to be on your way, and it's up to you to take that roadmap or throw it in the garbage.
So it's before I lose this thought, Milton had sent me a message and asked me about and told me that he didn't really understand his personal power. And so I presented it to him to think about this way, that I think that when you're confused and you're not aligned, what is the thing that you do for other people really well that you struggle to do for yourself? And then today I was like, oh my God, that's asked backwards. But I think that the question itself is valid when you're looking.
Hmm.
Because really, and I say it's backwards because your personal power is meant to help you first. You're supposed to figure it out for yourself first so that you can help other people.
But I think naturally it's easier for us to help others.
Not naturally. It's
No?
because it was programmed. When we watched Sesame Street as kids and Romper Room and Mr. Rogers, it's think about your neighbor first before yourself.
Right.
That's how you're programmed as a kid, right? And then you start to become disconnected from your personal power, either because it's scaring the people around you and they're making you change it. You know, it doesn't conform to what everybody else is going through. You're too special to handle. And so what do kids do with treasure that they feel is inappropriate or is in danger or is threatened?
Well, they hide it and then they make a little map for
They
it.
hide it. Most kids don't make the map, and that's why it's so hard for us to get back to it, because we didn't actually make a map for ourselves.
Oh, wow.
Except that your inner child probably secretly has that map imprinted on their heart. So when you do a meditation with your inner child, you're asking that map to come forward.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I wanted to stop right here
Oh no.
and say that we are going to do a part 2. And
Did we talk too much? Wow, we didn't get to me at all.
we are going to split this into multiple parts, but I think that this is perfect the way
Oh, I'm sad.
the way that we're doing this. And we are going to see you guys on the next one. We're going to release these 2 episodes this week, and I'm excited to get more into it. I'm sad that we have to cut this off, but it's I can't wait to get into a little bit more about you.
It
So
was a good episode.
thanks. You almost made me cry like 3 or 4 times.
Well, and okay, so before we sign off, my whole realization and everything, the reason I became emotional was because it's true. When it rings true, when it resonates, when it makes sense, it's super emotional. The tears come because you're releasing. You're releasing in realization.
Right.
Sorry. I'm
That's
sorry
okay.
I made you cry.
It's okay. Thanks, everybody. And we're going to see you on the next one. And make sure to share this one with everybody because I think this was one of the best. And I can't wait for part 2. We'll talk to you guys soon.